folks. We had a little technical difficulty here. Welcome to my show. My name is Thomas Russell, or Tom Russell. I am your host for Life Without Limits. And tonight we are bringing back James Bailey. He was on my show last week, and it was a very emotional show. And we were talking about his life with epilepsy, but there's more to James than epilepsy. And we had talked about James's book. It's called Light in the Shadows: A Life of Epilepsy, and we covered a lot of different things. And we talked about, as just a little recap. What we talked about was when he was a young child at age 2, he hit his head, and shortly after that, a couple weeks after, he started having seizures. And from there, the journey was challenging for him and his parents and his siblings. And so we covered that. We talked about it, and I read in the book what his sister talked about with him, and I got emotional, and as I always do. But with this particular piece that she wrote, it was just I started crying through it. So I hope you were able to listen to last week's show. And but tonight's show, we want to talk about how James has traveled through this life of epilepsy, but it's more like he's become victorious, and he refuses to let anything stop him from doing the things that he wants to do, even though there's possibilities of him putting himself in a dangerous position. He's chosen to live a life and not have the epilepsy dictate how he wants to be. So James, again, thank you so much for coming on my show again. Let's get something done today.
No, thank you for having me back.
Now the thing that I want to talk about the epilepsy again, the things we didn't cover. But the thing is you've gone through it so much, and you've had connections with other kids and other adults who've gone through this. You had a lot of people give you advice all the time. So what's the worst thing someone can say to tell you how to deal with epilepsy?
The worst thing what gets me is when they go, it can't be that bad, or you've just got to get over it, or things could be worse. Oh my God, like, so naive. I'm sorry, people, so naive when you say that, because it sticks with you. As soon as you got that down on a piece of paper, doors shut on you in every which direction. I'm like, you've got the limitations for me alone, like the limitations I had just because I've got the label epilepsy. Got rejected from the fire services, the police, the prison services, the army. I even needed to get a medical note to work in a local trampoline place, because I'm not going to put any names in. I had to get a medical note to say I am safe enough to work there and blow a whistle.
That's it.
Okay, that is it. Just being a safe marshal. So literally, yeah. As soon as you got that, doors just shut on you. It's incredible. But yeah, they're the main ones which always get me. That it can't be that bad, or you've just got to get over it. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, you went through all that rejection. Every time that happened, how did you handle going, saying, "Well, okay, that didn't work. That door shut. How do you keep the other door coming open?"
That's only in my recent years. I'm going to be honest with you. I spent a lot of my time just doing the only thing I've got is my name. I've got no way of making money. I've got no job prospects. You know, I failed school because the medication I was on was so high, and I couldn't focus because of the bullying. So I basically just turned around and started going, fine, if you won't accept me, I'm going to fund it and I'm going to do it myself. And that's exactly what I've done. I got myself in a position where I started my landscape company. I wasn't driving at the time, so I put a bit of money to one side. I employed a driver for a month. I went out, I had my driver, I had the van, I had everything kitted out. I was posting flyers, literally. I was generating the work while people were in overwinter cozy. I was outside digging a flower bed, shoveling snow. Um, the army rejected me because I wanted to go on to being a bodyguard. They said, no, we can't accept you. Fine. I funded it myself. I worked hard. I put the money aside. I paid to go private. I got trained by the same instructors. I just had to pay them. Fine. It means I got one-to-one attention, better training, less bulk, and I've still got the same result. So now I'm fully qualified, and I look after a couple of my clients, and I am happy. That is how I done it. They say no, I create my own opportunity. I got to the same destination. The only thing I had to do was take a different path. It's just finding that path.
Now, you talked about school. From what I remember you telling me, the medication kind of just stunted your ability to work well in school academically. How did you end up doing that?
Well, when I was 16, I had the reading and writing age of an 8-year-old. To give you an idea where I was at. At around the age of 18, the army rejected me. That hit me hard, really hard, actually, because at this point I've gone a little while without having seizures. But regardless, they didn't care. So they went, we can't accept you because you're on medication. So long story short, I stopped my medication. Cold turkey. Something you're not meant to do. You're meant to wean yourself off of it because it's a controlled drug, and I was on about 600-700 milligrams a day, and I just decided to go, I'm taking none. So I didn't tell anyone. A couple of weeks passed, led to a couple of months, and it was when I came off my medication, my brain woke up for the first time since the age of 2, and I was absorbing stuff. I was learning. It was just incredible. That's how I got to where I am. I'm going to be honest with you. My body just went, you know what, great, ding, let's go. I passed everything first time. It was great.
I think it's amazing because when I was reading the book, and because you said you weren't that great in school and everything, but I read the book, you were so lucid, and your thought process, it was a well written book, and it kind of belies what you went through when you were a kid. How were you able to get to that point to write the book?
No, well, I left at the ages, left school at 16, and like I say, at that point, I had the reading and writing age of an 8-year-old. I got taken into reading factual things. I learnt psychology behind bits and pieces. I was doing self-defense and the rest of it, and I grew leaps and bounds. I don't. I never went, oh yeah, I'm going to be an author. I'm going to write something, or I'm going to do this. I just fell into it. How that came about, the actual me writing it, was because I was always brought up to just live your life. Be a shadow. Don't draw attention or the rest of it. And I was sitting in a local pub. This was 2018 when I was uncontrolled, and there was a little girl there. She was around 7-8 years old. She had cerebral palsy, epilepsy. She was in a wheelchair, and inevitably we started chatting because they were sitting next to us, and her parents went, what we would give just to find out what's going on in her head. We just want to know how she's feeling. Can we help? What can we do? And my mum, despite me being uncontrolled and wanting no attention whatsoever, sitting in the corner, she went, talk to him. Talk to James. He'll be able to help you. Right.
Wow.
And then the book itself, it just flowed. I'm going to be honest with you, the punctuation and the rest of it, I did need help with. But the words were easy. The words was just living, My vocabulary has obviously got up quite considerably through the reading and the books I read. They're very, because they're psychology books, a lot of them use very different words and then, or fancy words, should I say. And then the neurologists and all the hospital visits I've had, I can use more of the technical terms as well and describe exactly what bits are and what they feel like.
What were some of the things you had to struggle with that most people take for granted?
When I'm going to say it's from when I'm uncontrolled, because that's the real thing. Day-to-day tasks, brushing your teeth, feeding yourself. Let me phrase this. You go from being completely normal and capable, okay, and you suddenly out of nowhere lose the ability to brush your own teeth, wash yourself, make yourself a tuna sandwich or whatever else you want to make. You lose that, the ability to walk. I was trying to feed myself. I couldn't feed myself. How humiliating it is when you're out in a pub and you're needing your parents to cut your food for you because you can't be trusted with a knife in case you have a seizure and end up stabbing yourself or doing damage. It's just, I can't describe it. I'm having to be washed. The biggest adjustment is the 24-hour observation, the continuous. Are you okay? Yes. Are you okay? Yes. Now you got to remember, this goes from being absolutely fine to like that. Don't get me wrong, some people will have one. I'm talking from a point where I'm having over 100 a day here. So where I'll go from being within 24 hours fine, fit as a fiddle, to needing a Zimmer frame, struggling to walk. And then when you're controlled, if you wanted to go and do something, you could do it tomorrow. You want to join the army, you can do it tomorrow. You want to go driving, you can do it in a heartbeat. We can't. That's the thing. We're so restricted on what we can and can't do. But it's point when uncontrolled, that's the worst bit. But despite even when I'm uncontrolled, I always smile. I was always playing around in the hospital. I think one of the pictures is me wearing the hospital gown as a dressing gown. I was wearing it forwards instead of backwards. And I remember that conversation because the nurse turned around to me and went, "Please put this on." And I went, "There's no way I'm going to have my bum sticking out to the crowd. I'm sorry." I went, "If I'm going to wear it, I'm going to walk down here in style." And she went, "You can't walk. You need to be in a wheelchair." I'm walking and you can walk next to me with a wheelchair. Fine. So yeah, I done it up and started walking and I was strutting my stuff. But that's the thing. It was always just like, and it got to a point where I remember I had one, and to stop myself from falling, I was in the shower and I was stubborn. But it was but that's also what kept me going, because even though the nurses and all that were saying, stay in the hospital bed, do not move from the bed, it's where you're safe. I was still getting out. I was walking down the corridor offering a Malteser cake, whispering to the security guards who was watching this bloke who was going nuts, going, psst, psst. He went, "Yeah, do you like cake? Yeah. Do you like Maltesers? Yeah, you'll like this then." I was giving it to him. I'm just, but you've either got to laugh or you cry about it. And I chose to make the best out of a bad situation. I remember I had a seizure. I collapsed. My mum couldn't lift me out of the bath in hospital. So two of the Filipino nurses, bless them, had to come in and lift my my birthday suit out of the bath. I was just like, "Oh, well, hello."
That's got to be embarrassing. Now, you said you wrote in the book, and I was kind of reluctant to bring this up, but you talked about embarrassment of wetting yourself at various ages. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. What would you like to know about it?
Well, I mean, what was the circumstances behind that? I mean, when you wrote it, when you wrote about it in the book, what were you trying to talk about?
I was trying to highlight because that it's not uncommon. I wanted to show people that I am human, and I want to highlight to people that they're not different. If they're bedwetting and they're bedwetting at a later age, it happens, you know. But I also want to stress to people about the importance about approaching it in the correct manner. Like mine, they always put down going, oh, it's laziness. And it turned out it wasn't. I was on such a high dose of medication that I just wouldn't wake up. And medication is well known for making you drowsy and fatigued. Now, I was out like a light. And then on top of that, you had the bullying going on as well and stress. So your mind can be all over the place. So between the medication, the stress, the bullying, and the added pressure of parents going, come on, wake up. Why aren't you waking up? Stop being lazy. Get up. It's that can be a combination of it. So what I've put in there is, look, if this is happening in the nicest possible way, leave off your kids. Ask them, why is it happening? Are you okay? You're not any different. Don't worry about it. But let's try and get to the bottom of it. Is it the medication? Is everything okay at school? Do you feel different? What's happening? It's the same with like my case studies in there and how I want to people to deal with unusual activity. That's what it is. It's a you are normal. If a teenager picks it up and reads it, I want them to be, oh, if he's doing it and he's done this, maybe it's not so bad.
One thing that, because you mentioned when you were at a restaurant and somebody had this girl had cerebral palsy, um, you were watching that person. You went through a particular scene with your sister when you were at we call it a carvery and trying to get a cup of tea. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, a little bit lost in translation there. The me uncontrolled with that girl with cerebral palsy, she was my inspiration and motivation for writing it. She's who highlighted I can make a difference. I helped that family always, then won that day. The trip to the carvery with my sister and my fiance at the time was I was uncontrolled. It was day one of when my seizures started up, and I knew what was going to happen. I've been through it all before. I knew I was going to be in hospital. So I wanted to go out and just have one last normal meal. Completely understandable. Yes, at this point, I've already hit on day one over 75 seizures. Nonetheless, I wanted to go. So we went. And while in there, everything was fine. We ordered food. I sat in the corner. I had my good old little Jim's good old cup of tea. Very happy days. Loved that. And yeah, I put my hand out to grab it and went poured it myself. Ended up having a seizure. My arm started shaking. My sister was grabbing my arm to try and just look, oh, it's okay, just keeping me calm. These are the worst ones because I was aware. And I wish I wasn't. Honestly, I wish somebody cracked me over the head with something to really make me lights out. It's something that will always stick to me to this day, and it will never go, because the table next to us looked over and started staring, and I was, yeah. So I clocked that, and my sister was saying, "Just focus on me, just focus on me," and it's painful because your heart's telling you to stop. Your eyes are telling you to stop, but you can't control what's going on. And that's worse. At least if I wasn't conscious of it, I'd be none the wiser. But I clocked them girls. They were staring at me. Then they started to whisper. And then at that point, it was just get me out of it. So after a couple of minutes, it stopped. And I was just like, I just wanted to hide. And I just went, can we just go? I put my hood up and we left. But before we left, my sister went over to the table and said, I would just want to say thank you to you girls because my brother's having a really hard time and he just wanted to feel a little bit normal before going through a less than pleasant experience, and you just made it a lot worse. So thank you for ruining it.
Oh, wow.
And then as she left, they just went, oh, I'm so sorry. We were just concerned. So, and that's why I'm very much in my book. And I've led this by example, how I've actually spoke a chap down from a bridge overhanging a motorway by don't whisper, don't stare, And, don't try and draw any more attention that's needed. Glance. Don't bloody stare. Glance. Talk. Check. Are you okay? Don't whisper. Because even if you're whispering, going, oh, do you think this person's okay? It's better to say it out loud, because I don't know what the hell you're saying when you're whispering to your friend. So all that does is cause you more anxiety, more paranoia, and then it gets to a point where something like that happens. And now that memory will stay with me for all the wrong reasons. I finally managed to go back to the car free, but it took about 8 months for me to get over that and go in there.
Now, you just said that you talked about, in your book, you talked about you connected with a man on a bridge. Why was that important to
Yes.
you?
I suppose it's proof in the pudding. It's living proof that my theory works, and I put it to the test. I was controlled at this point, and my sister was driving. We drove around the corner, and there was this bloke just overhanging the bridge, and I was like, something's not right here. So we pulled over. I said to my sister, stay in the car, don't get out, I'll be back. So I went over and just he wasn't in the right frame of mind at all. And I just started going, you all right? Talk to me. It's, just, I'm here. I'll listen, because no one wanted to listen to him. And I just went, let's just chat about it. What's up? So he got chatting. And then I just went, well, why don't we just go over here? I'm in no rush. If you want to go get a coffee, we can go get a coffee. I'm happy enough with just, and all it was, he just came out of hospital, and his parents wasn't listening to him. That's it. But that's a little thing to say a couple of people like us. But when you actually look at the grand scheme of things, it overwhelmed him. Now, the point of that is he was hanging over, and he was ready to make that jump. Now, if me and my sister walked past and we whispered to each other, we stared at him and we sniggered, he probably would have gone over. Instead, and that's what the girl's done to me in the carvery. But instead, I decided to go, are you okay? Do you want to chat? I just glanced. I didn't stare. I didn't whisper. I spoke to him like a human being. And I managed to get him away. Now, if those girls that day handled that very differently and took my approach of, glance, are you okay? Yes, he's fine. Great, move on. That's a small level of embarrassment over what happened. That's why that's important. It's living proof that my theory works, and I'm not just writing it.
Now, also in the book, I think this is a good point to bring up, because you were talking about the gentleman who was going to end his life. You got in that same situation where things were really bad for you, worse than it's ever been, and you decided to take your life. Can you talk about that situation?
Yeah, that was the toughest point in my life. Hands down. It all happened at once. Again, it's 2019. Remember how I said you go from being absolutely fine to just all breaks down in a matter of hours, sometimes even minutes. Well, before I went into hospital, business was flourishing. Business was doing very well. Me and my fiance, we had our wedding booked, planned. We was expecting our child. I was overwhelmed with that. And then we had our own place. Life was set. And then epilepsy kicked in, started up, and within 2 weeks of me being in there, we had to cancel the wedding because nobody knew what to do with me. I was uncontrolled, and history repeating itself. I'm very hard to control. And within those 2 weeks, my fiance suffered a miscarriage. We then had the business. I was being updated. That's on the verge of collapse. Had to leave our property. I had to move in with somewhere with less stairs, somewhere with 24-hour observation. Everything I built got destroyed. Between that, they then put me on Keppra, which had very bad made me very depressed, aggressive, and not myself. And yeah, I decided to. I remember this walk we done, went over to the woods, found this rope that's been hanging there for a while, put it around my neck, jumped, and it snapped. It's been over there years, and this is a very good classic example of I wasn't in the right frame of mind, so I was thinking that was going to do the job. I wasn't thinking I'm going to able to go down to a DIY store and do it this way. And when I was doing it, I had no intentions of being found. I didn't want anybody seeing that. But also, I want to stress to people, do not do that. Do
Yeah,
not do
honestly.
that. Because the thing is I always used to say it's a cowardly act. I done it because I felt like it would make everybody's life better if I was out of the equation, because it was me and my epilepsy that was causing it. That's a fair argument to make.
Right.
But through doing so, I wasn't helping anybody. I am their life. I am what kept everybody going. And for me, I look back at that day and I regret it. I'm glad it snapped, because if that happens, the book wouldn't have come out and I wouldn't be able to help people the way I'm helping them today. And yeah, I didn't do it over nothing. Let's just put it that way. Everything happened within 2 weeks, and that was awful. But saying that, I'm glad it happened because it gave me a better understanding of what people go through, and now it means I can understand it and I can help them from first person point of view experience, as opposed to just being, why did you do that?
Now,
I learned from it.
some people have this epiphany. After the rope snapped, you had the opportunity to reflect again what happened and what next. What now? What am I going to do now? What was your mindset after that failure? No, I shouldn't say failure, but when it didn't happen.
I'll be honest, originally it was just, I feel very winded.
Yeah.
That's what it was originally. Just, this was not a good idea. uh, but it was that evening I got taken back into hospital because I was having even more seizures. And then when I came out of there, I looked at myself and I just went, how do I want to be remembered? Do I want to be remembered like this, or do I want to build up? Do I want to better myself? And do I want to go from there? And I found a second wind. I just went, you know what? I'm going to be better than I was. And that's exactly what I've done. I've built everything and I'm now better. I've got not one business, but two businesses. A book's been written. I'm doing my mentoring. I'm now actually helping people. And even though I look back and I look at what I lost in 2019, I gained so much more. I'll never really get over what happened because I was the cause of that miscarriage. And despite how many people tell me otherwise, if I was not in hospital and I wouldn't have been in there and I didn't have epilepsy, that wouldn't have happened.
Mm.
So that is something I've got to carry with myself.
Yeah, but I mean, James, you can't, you can't put yourself in that situation. Even though you know, when you say you had epilepsy, you caused the miscarriage. Things happen that you have no control over, and I think,
Absolutely.
and I
But
think that you've proven that over the course of your life. Sometimes you just have no control over things, but what you can control is how you recover from that, and you've gotten to that point.
that's
Um,
exactly it. And I put a comment on Facebook actually going, I'm better now than what I was back in pre 2019.
yeah,
I've built everything back up and I've done more with it. I'm better at self defense, for example, now than what I was back then. And I had to build my whole coordination back up. Like I had to work on how to walk again, like let alone how to kick and do anything else. So it's been a real achievement. I'm very happy, but now it's like, well, you've built it up. I could end up in hospital tomorrow. That's a possibility. But I want to make sure I'm in a better position than what I was last time. And that's what we have to strive towards. It's about making yourself in a better position than what you were last time. There might not ever be another time I go into hospital, touch wood, but I'd rather be prepared should that be the case.
Well, it's interesting because you just talked about the martial arts. Being in martial arts, you always have that thing hanging over your head. That what happens if something happens to you, someone hits your head. Do you, when you do this, when you do the training and everything, do you ever think about that?
No, if anything, it makes me even more careful.
Mm.
But no, I don't. I always got cushioned on like, no, you don't do boxing, you don't do this, you don't do that, and I'm like, actually, no, I'm going to do it because the thing is, the only thing stopping me from doing it would be me being epileptic. It's caused so many limitations on my life already that I'm not going to let it control what I choose to do. What few choices I get to make, I'm not even considering my epilepsy. If I get hit in the head, it's my own fault. But I do all right. I don't get hit in the head very often, which is why you don't see any black marks on my face. So
Yeah.
that's good. Unfortunately, this isn't how I make my money, but I like my face being as it is. But no, and that's the thing. I've done white water rafting. I've done all sorts of things, but I've had to sign disclaimers to go if I have a seizure and I fall out of the boat, I'm not going to press charges and the rest of it. But the main thing is don't let it dictate what you do and what you don't do. But you have to accept the consequence. I've recently helped this chap out who he wouldn't even leave his house to go and take his daughter out on her bike or swimming. He was too worried about having a seizure, and he may never have one again. Yeah, that was stopping him from going through all those experiences with his little girl. So I said, if you don't feel comfortable, take somebody out with you. Take your parents out with you. Take the mother out with you. Go out with a couple of friends. But whatever you do, I said to him, you have to handle consequence. As long as you can accept that, it's fine. And that's what I do with my life. I use power tools like hedge trimmers, chainsaws. I might have a seizure, and the possibility is I'm going to slice through my leg, but I accept that consequence. It hasn't happened.
Now you wrote in the book, and I thought this is, I really want to cover this because you talked about changing your mindset about other things you normally couldn't accomplish. On page 63, can you read what you wrote about that? And how'd you get to that point?
Yeah, sure. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, okay. I do
I
love
love this.
page 63. Would you like me to just read it?
Just read it.
Or
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
how I got to this point? So,
Yeah.
just above it, I've got the whole greatness isn't born, it is achieved. Changing your frame of mind. This is after 2019. After all this time, I knew I could never get rid of my epilepsy, so I changed my attitude. And rather than letting this condition conquer me, I decided to conquer it. And I was doing exactly that. I went further into martial arts, going into sparring competitions, winning gold medals and trophies. I entered European Championships, winning gold medals, um, silver medals, bronze medals, and the rest of it. I taught groups, classes, competed in mud runs, travelled alone, passed my practical and advanced driving courses. I sat my A levels and passed first time. In school, I had grades U's and F's, which for many years I thought were fails. I passed my advanced first aid course first time. I passed all of my close protection, which is bodyguarding courses first time. I also started training harder with defence, learning about bullying, reading my medical notes about all my epilepsy history, so that next time I would be prepared. When I did occasionally lose my motivation, have self-doubt, or just have the fear of failing, I thought of this. And remember, people, fail stands for first attempt in life. Fear stands for face everything and rise, as I do, or forget everything and run. Comfort zone. Comfort is the enemy of progress. The main way of boosting your confidence is stepping out of your comfort zone. If you want to give up, just think to yourself, and this is what I often felt and thought when I was in and out of my seizures. I am a lion, I'm a warrior. No retreat and never surrender. You see, there was one good thing that came out of my epilepsy: the bullying, the torment, and every part of the rejection setbacks. It gave me the best possible gift. It not only made me the person I am today and pushed me to succeed and better myself in every way, but to prove everybody wrong. Do the impossible and become a bigger success than all those who doubted and bullied me. But my biggest achievement is writing and publishing this book. I may not be able to change the world, but I can change the world for someone else. And this book is the start of that.
Yeah, and this book again, folks, it's called Light in the Shadows: Life of Epilepsy, and that is what you're all about, James. It's about, when you end up talking to kids or people who are going through epilepsy or anything else, what message do you try to impart?
Be yourself. Be yourself. Never accept criticism. Never doubt yourself. Only be positive. Be positive, be passionate, and don't be afraid to stand out and be different from the crowd. Embrace who you are. But the one main thing I did want to get across as well is something I've recently learned is everybody has their own challenges and their own battles in life. The thing that separates us from other people is how we handle them. And how we handle these situations is what truly defines us. That's what I want to get out to people. Some people choose bullies or have their own insecurities and their own issues. They just don't handle it the same way that you do. And therefore, you're a much bigger and better person than what they are. That's what I want to be saying.
Now, when you talked, we've talked so much, I don't remember what show it was on, whether it was on this show or the last one, but um, despite the perils of epilepsy and ravaging your body, you've said that you consider it a blessing. I have not a struggle with that, but I mean, it's just all the stuff you've gone through. How is it a blessing?
It started with acceptance. For years, it's hindered me, and it has hindered me. It still does, but I can't get rid of it. So I can either go around my entire life with it being a dark cloud over me and carry on being that curse. But now it's a blessing, because the thing is, it's unlikely and it's very hard to find somebody who's been uncontrolled as a toddler, a child, a teenager, and an adult. Some people will miss out certain stages of their life. Some people will grow into epilepsy. Some people will grow out of epilepsy. So through me having all of this experience, it means I'm able to help people in any stage of their life with it. It means I'm able to help parents, guide parents, give them comfort, give them hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. That's why it's a blessing. I can help people. It's given me the drive. It's made me not materialistic because I can't afford to be materialistic. It's made me the person I am today. It's made me. That's why it's a blessing. You can't get rid of it, but you can embrace it.
Now, I think I already know what the answer to this question is, but if you could ever get rid of epilepsy, would you?
No. No.
Hmm.
Hand on heart, I wouldn't. Because the thing is, like say, depending on how you believe in it, if it didn't happen to me, it would happen to somebody else. And I'd much rather it happen to me because somebody may have not handled it the same way I have. And for all of the issues it's caused and all the setbacks it's caused, it's put me where I am today. I'm at that point where I can be a voice. I can explain to people, if I didn't have it, this book may have not even come out because somebody else who would have been in my position may be too afraid to go I'm over here because you've got people that are nasty, you know. I, 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 I'm not bothered about that, you know. The main thing is this is making a difference. And to date, with my mentoring, just since the book came out on May the 18th, I've helped over 80 people. And that's a mixture, that's personally. I've mentored all of those, all completely different reasons, but parents, children, the children, the primary schoolers, I generally just get them to focus on positives, you know. Before they go to school every day, I get them to write 3 positive things about themselves. And if they get home and they're not feeling great, they read it. But the trick is, at least once in that week, I want them to write 1 negative thing about them, something they don't like about themselves, on the back of the paper. And when the day comes that they go home and they're in a happy mood, they look at their negative and they work on it. That's the thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because you wrote in your book about your biggest weakness becomes your greatest strength, and I think that's important, because when you start focusing on the negative, you think that's how you should live your life, and that's not how it works. Man, I had a question for you, and I totally lost it.
Right.
So you do your speaking engagements. How do people reach you?
So obviously through the book, it's got my contact details for the mentoring side, which they come over via email. I've got a website now, which has been nicely done. Somebody's done it for me. It's called lightintheshadows.co.uk. They can go through that. They can book me and the rest of it. Have appointments allocated. The main thing is, on the mentoring side, it ultimately comes down to those who buy the book, because the thing is, they then understand my journey, and that's the key thing. Because if some randomer just contacted me and said, "Oh, I want your mentoring," and I started saying to them things like, "Stop looking at your epilepsy like this," for example, they'll go, "Well, how do you know? What's it to you?" And then I have to try to explain to them, rather than go, "You know what? All right, wow, you've been through that, so I respect what you're about to say to me." And obviously you've read the book, so you know exactly what I'm talking about here.
I'm hoping that when I read this book again, which I will, I'm hoping I get through the first section with your sister without crying. But even if I don't, I mean, I think that's a win for me. Are you currently having any epileptic seizures at all? How long has it been?
I'm controlled now. Uh, News articles is 7 months. No, sorry, no, it's not. That's an old one. It's been about 14, 15 months now.
Holy cow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's going on a while now, because because the news article, they basically made a little bit of a hiccup on it, but overall, it's how it's worked out. Because the thing is, the news article says 7 months, but that was written X amount of months before that point.
Right.
So the published date is, like, say for example, the published date would be today, but we actually discussed it like 4 or 5 months ago. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I've done it before. I used to write for a magazine that was a monthly, and things happened on that particular day when I wrote the article, and a month later, everything is different.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it's a chance you got to take when you have something that that takes a while for it to go in publication. So, it is what it is, and you work with this.
exactly. But yeah, but the main thing is, it's been a nice long time, and I'm grateful for that. So I've recently had all my test results come back from my specialist hospital I'm now under, and they've all come back fit as a fiddle, but they don't want to touch me, my medication or anything. So it's looking positive. It's been a good week. It's been a good week.
I used to hate this question though. When you go into a job interview, they ask you this stupid question, but it makes sense. It's like, where do you want to be in 5 years? So I'm going to ask you that, James. Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Okay. I'd like to have my own facility. So I want to raise enough money and I know exactly how much I need, where I need, and the rest of it. But in the next 5 years, I'd like to have my own facility where it's on site and people can come visit and they'll stay with me for 2 weeks and I'll help them see their condition more as a blessing rather than a curse, whether that just be them being bullied, they might be depressed, they might have epilepsy, they might have anxiety and security issues. Fine. Um, there are talks at the minute with possibly trying to make a film out of this book. So there's possibly that, but the end goal where I want it to be is I'd like my facility.
Well, that's something that I think is going to happen, because I think that based on what you've done with your life, you make things happen. So don't let circumstances of today affect how you're going to be tomorrow. So I encourage you. I think that's all we have for the show. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, like I said, I think we've done well covering as much as we have. I just want to thank you again for obviously having me back for a second show. And obviously, we're overseas at the minute, but perhaps we can discuss where, because I do plan on visiting the US actually once all this COVID thing settled down, and maybe we can actually look at doing something live, perhaps actually, something where I'm your side as opposed to over the pond.
Yeah, this is what's great about doing the show, is I can connect with people all across the world, and I get to hear about their culture and the things that they go through with their life, and it's truly a blessing. I just love doing the show, and I love having you on my show, James, because you inspire me every time I think about you. Because if I go through things in my own life that I think that are going to knock me down, all I have to do is think about you and what you've gone through in your life and how you've overcome everything up to this point. And you are a victor, man. You are a victor. And I so appreciate all you've done for me and everybody else you've had exposure to.
No, like I say, thank you again. And I really appreciate you having me. It's great. And I'm the same. I was, whenever I feel like I need a little bit of motivating, I actually read page 63, because it uplifts you, and that's exactly what it's for. But no, thank you, sir.
All right, so as I end all my shows, I want everyone to smile infectiously, laugh genuinely, love unconditionally, live courageously. I believe in all of you, and I believe that tomorrow is going to be such a better day for you. Because as James and I have talked about before, you've got to make things happen rather than things happening for you or to you. Just get it done. So have a great week, folks.